Here in the upside down world, where Dick Cheney is now voting for a Democrat, this is a moment, I think. And it's amazing that, that Democrats who really hate Dick Cheney, I mean, I cannot underscore that. Yeah. I cannot underscore that anymore. I mean, they really do not like him at all, but they are welcoming this.
Yeah, I think the Republican playbook says I'm supposed to be surprised, but I'm not. In fact, I think I'm actually surprised when I watch level-headed Republicans not come out and endorse Kamala Harris, knowing all the things we know about Donald Trump. I mean, look, I've lived this out since the hours of after the 2020 election debacle. There's been Republicans that have quietly come up to me for years and have said, hey, look, I cannot believe we're going to do this again. And, you know, post-DNC speech, I mean, I'm giving high fives walking up the street to the studio here from folks that are recognizing and saying, hey, I'm a Republican too. Thanks for doing the right thing. I'm going to follow your lead. It's happening all over the country. There's a quiet momentum building against Donald Trump, even amongst Republicans.
It feels different in a lot of ways from what we've seen before, because Dick Cheney is just as Republican as Mitch McConnell. I mean, you could even argue maybe more in some ways. Dick Cheney is not some guy who's prone to fuzzy feelings about really anything. But on this particular issue, he has drawn a line. I'm wondering if you think that you might see other people who have been hesitant to do this in the past because they say, oh, you know, conservative principles in Congress, the House, the Senate. Those people might suddenly say, wait a second, this is different.
Yeah, I don't think that it matters, because I think if you look at the polling since January, Donald Trump has held, what is it, 92% of the Republican vote. The most impact that the Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney are going to have, or at least these former Republicans who have Jeff are going to have, are convincing other Republicans to sort of move away from President Trump. And you just don't see in that data, at this point of the election. You didn't see it 6 weeks ago. You didn't see it 6 months ago. And so I don't know that the opposition at this point matters. I think the voters have sort of baked in January 6th, and they've made a decision that the Biden administration, whether it's right or wrong, is so bad at inflation, at immigration, at the core issues that value to them, that they're willing to overlook January 6th. I mean, that's what the data shows. I think that's where we're headed, and you'll see more people come out, but I just don't think it's going to move the needle.
I want to play what Liz Cheney did in addition to all of this. It's not just at the top of the ticket. Here's what else she's doing.
Colin Allred is somebody I served with in the House, and somebody who really, when you think about the kind of leaders our country needs, and going to this point about, you might not agree on every policy position, but we need people who are going to serve in good faith. And in this race, that is Colin Allred. So I'll be working on his behalf.
She is going to campaign for a Democrat who is running against a Republican in the Senate in the state of Texas. She said she's going to campaign for Kamala Harris. I mean, that is extraordinary.
I rarely am speechless, and I find myself speechless. I mean, I think I started voting through the Bush-Cheney era. That was my first election. And you're right, Democrats, he was just the enemy. But I also appreciate people like yourself. I never thought you were the enemy, just to be clear. But
thank you for clarifying that. I was worried. It's Friday night. Be nice.
She did.
But I think it is refreshing in a moment we are so polarized for people to really rise above and rise to the occasion and say, this actually is not about politics. This is actually about our country and what I think is best for our country. So I still to this day doubt that I agree with anything that Liz Cheney or Dick Cheney stands for on a policy position. But I do agree that you have to pick country over party, and they are doing that. And so I am in line with them, and I am appreciative of them, and still somewhat speechless, but good for them.
Go ahead.
Can I jump? I mean, look, in terms of modern contemporary politics, it is significant. Former vice president, Republican, very conservative, endorsing a Democrat. I don't think anyone would have ever expected that. But it does showcase this huge ideological shift, Abby, within the Republican Party, of the more Chamber of Commerce, establishment wing, educated wing of the party that are clearly moving somewhat to the Democratic side, maybe because of Trump. I don't know if it's temporary, Jeff, or maybe it's permanent. Brian, I think we'll have to see. And then you're sort of seeing this populist, nationalist, working class movement of people who were once reliable stalwarts of the Democratic Party move over to the Republican side. So this shift to me is really, really fascinating. Outside of just the Trump and Kamala Harris dynamics, I'm curious to see where does this go over the next 4 to 8 years.
I'm also curious where George W. Bush is.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, and also Keith. I mean, you've been around in the Democratic politics for a long time. Are you good with this big tent? Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
I posted about this earlier on Twitter, and I was not surprised that everybody attacked me for posting this. All my liberal Democratic friends attacked me for saying this. Like, we shouldn't be celebrating Dick Cheney. He's a war criminal. Yeah, I get all that, but the fact that he is actually endorsing Kamala Harris for president, it does surprise me. I don't know why other people are not surprised by that. I would be less surprised if he just said, I'm not voting for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I think George W. Bush is, because he hasn't said anything.
where a lot of
And Mitt
Republicans
Romney
are.
and a lot of other people.
He went
But he
after
went
his
out-
daughter. I mean, Donald Trump went after his daughter. Any dad is going to say no.
But
So we
but
sh- I
that's
wouldn't
what's
be- we're
but
not
that's what's so
surprised by
funny
that.
about that. Going back to what the endorsement of Colin Allred. Ted Cruz is Colin Allred's opponent. Donald Trump attacked Ted Cruz's father.
Yeah.
And Ted Cruz's wife. He called her ugly. And accused Ted Cruz's dad of being involved in the JFK assassination. And Ted Cruz
Well, that was the
still,
National Enquirer.
through Donald Trump. And
I
Ted
know.
Cruz still went on and supported him after he'd already condemned. And he knew exactly what a horrible person Donald Trump was, and he continued to support him. That's the level of cowardice from the Republican Party leadership today that's just so stunning. The party of Reagan has disappeared. The party of Bob Dole has disappeared. Even the party of George W. Bush has disappeared.
Well,
you have
everything
200,
evolved. Listen, the
200
party of
former
Bill Clinton is
Republicans who have
gone.
endorsed Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
former Bush and Bush officials and other officials. You have people
We've
who
had a
like
Kennedy
Mike
endorse
Pence.
Trump.
Mike
This is
Pence.
just a new election.
Mike Pence. Robert F. Kennedy is not even in the equation compared to these people. Mike Pence was the vice president of the United States for Donald Trump. And he is not endorsing Donald Trump. The person who worked most closely with Donald Trump is saying Donald Trump is not fit to be
You know what I
president.
think is interesting across the spectrum is that two things. One, people like you who still have a very long political career ahead of you are standing up. But people like Dick Cheney, I think we all assume that he has reached the pinnacle of his political career. So it's the depth and the spectrum of people who are saying, I'm kind of surrendering my, maybe not, maybe you're hoping your party comes back, but I'm actually like,
I just want to get my country back.
that's right. That's what I'm saying. Like you're not picking yourself over this
I've got
moment.
3 kids. I got to stare in their eyes, and I got to make sure I've done everything I can do to secure the future for
Yes.
them. And this is really a decision that comes down to democracy, or a pathway against democracy.
Yes.
And so for me, I think speaking to this confidence that Republicans are starting to get, I mean, there's a lot of confidence out there in Republicans to not vote for Donald Trump, but that means they're not going to vote for anybody. But this confidence is starting to show up where folks are like, look, I'm either going to make a point and not vote for Donald Trump, or I'm going to make a difference and defeat him in his tracks and get our party back. Long-range planning here, it's going to take more than a day to fix the Republican Party, but we got to start somewhere.